Okay, so here are the majority of the fabric journals that I've made. And as I say, some of them, it's just the cover and inside is card and paper. But this is like, oh, I really love this. It's so chunky. And then others are, yeah, all the pages are fabric and I've been working on them. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start with some of the projects that I've been making, and then we'll choose, I'll probably choose the most recent art journal that I've made. And yeah, as I say, over the weeks we can look at the different types of journals and how I would work on the pages. Okay, so here are the more recent projects that I've been making. So this one is a fabric journal that I made to house my projects from a online retreat called Making Zen. And so this was, I made a mini art journal with just one signature, and I stitched it down the middle, and for the mini journal it's got a pocket at the front and the back, and then it's made from bits of fabric. So this was actually one of the sessions that we did in the Making Zen, and it was I think it was in the May Making Zen, and so it was making putting fabrics together and almost invisible stitch. I mean, it's not really an invisible stitch, but it looks the way that the teacher at the time, I can't remember her name, but the way that she did it, you could use it on the front or the back. But because I've had the fabric that I've used was painted on one side, I just decided to use it as a cover. And then, as I say, I just used one signature, and in it I've put the projects. On the pages I used it for the projects for the retreat. So I've still got some to do, and again, it's a nice space to then come back to have a space where you can add all your stitches to. And this was one of the other projects, and I'm just going to add it to this. Maybe I'll put it on a page like that. Some the pages, the fabric pages are quite thin, so attaching something to it will make it more sturdy. So that was that. So you can take fabrics and, you know, do paint on them, and I've used stencil on this, some stamping as well, and just some sprays, some ink sprays on some of the pieces of fabric. This piece of fabric was wax resist dyed, and then we've got painted with acrylic and fabric paint, and it makes a nice little handy sized journal, and it is I think it's 4x6, yeah. Okay, so the next project, which I'm quite excited by, because this was the most recent Making Zen, and the first project I made, let me show you the first project I made, which I shared a couple of weeks ago, which was these mini art dolls, and one of mine's wearing a hat and she's got like braids, got this little heart there. So again, I just used lots of different fabric scraps and brought them together, and yeah, I made it slightly different. This is just stuffed with other fabric scraps and yarn, but it stands up quite nicely. And then this one, she has some broken jewellery on her, and she's got her nice earrings there. And and a little scarf, and then I've put some, like, for her fake hair, and this one stands up quite nicely as well. So the next project, so this was the more recent Making Zen, which is finished. The next project I did was this. Look at this. Doesn't it look fun? Well, I'm saying it. Doesn't it look glorious? The teacher made a dragonfly and a butterfly. So this was my interpretation of a dragonfly. When I originally made it, the tail stopped, I think, here, but the body or the thorax. So, but I extended it. And let's come in, shall we? Let's have a good look. So, on each wing, I've added a selection of fabric scraps and stitched them. As you can see, they're similar. So I've used on the top wings, I've used fabric from the same fabric but cut in different places. So you'll see, you know, it won't look exactly the same. But I like that. And then on the bottom one, I've done a similar sort of thing. We've got the main colour fabric, and then we've got this middle section, and then this section here, which has got 2 words on. I haven't backed them because I figured that what I would do is have it flat. I would display it flat, either in a frame or maybe on a backing fabric, like just have this and stitch it on. Maybe that's what I'll do, because I haven't decided what to do with this now. But I really enjoyed doing it. It was fun to make, and yeah, I finished it off with some beads, and we've got some French knots here. And as I say, I've done some words as well, just on fabric. So I really liked that. And then the next thing I've been doing is working in another journal that I've created. And I wanted to have, this is just a piece I'm considering putting here. The word was written on a fabric that I'd hand dyed, and then we've just got a piece of felt, so I'm just putting in the word fly, but I might double, go around it double, which I'll show you what I mean. Anyway, so we've got this journal here. The fabric was recycled clothing, and the dress had this pattern on it, so I haven't actually done the front bit myself, but it's going through the stuff that you have. The dress wasn't in a condition to go to a charity store and be reused, but this bit could be reused in a different way. The fabric can be reused itself, yeah? So this has got 2 signatures. I've just used, again, I like to recycle, and I will look and see some of the fabrics that I have. I do collect fabrics amongst other things. And so this was, it was like a cotton kind of velour-y type of pillowcase that I'd brought in the dollar store. It's like really lovely fabric to, it's like brush cotton, I think, maybe. And I was going to dye it. And then when I saw it, I thought, let me make a journal from it. I toyed with having a stiff journal, but in the end, just a kind of floppy one. Once you start adding stitches and adding pieces, it will firm up. So should we have a look in this one, and then we might get to finish this and add it to the front, so the pinks go well, and I would just stitch round there. Okay, so let's have a look. So I had previously done lots of words on fabric and stitched round them, and then I cut them out because it's nice to be able to have these words that you can then use in your journal in different places. So on this front page, I've just, had added my needles and then added some of the words. The rest of them are in another container, but these are the words that I want to add in this fabric journal. So in this first piece, I've stitched two together, so it's almost like a pocket, so I'll be able to put some things in there. That's too big, but if I had something of a size that I wanted to store in here and use in this journal, I could put it in that front pocket, or I can put things that I'm working on that I think I just need to rest them in there, or rest the threads in there that I might want to come back to. And this is what I mean by the double stitching. So I've gone around it once, and then you just go around it a second time. You're still using backstitch, but you can use many different colours, and you can create some really nice effects with the thread, or just backstitch, and the design of the word the kind of font that you use. And so this is more like a scripty kind of font, and then they've been stitched and then stitched on a backing fabric, and I added it to this book. And then I've got on the back, I can do some stitching as well. I allowed the stitching to come through so that this is almost like a frame, and I can either add something in the middle, or I can just use it as a stitched, just stitch it as normal. But you can see the thread. You can see the thread, just a straight stitch going through, and you can design and do some different patterns if you want. But I wanted this just to really house some of the small bits, to be almost like a lookbook. So when I've got small pieces that I want to keep, or I really like the look of, I can add them here, stitch them to the page, and then I've got, it's almost like a source of ideas that I can come back into and see what I've done. And this one is just with different stitches. I've done different stitches, different patterns that you can get from just doing a straight stitch. So again, it's just another source of inspiration that I can come back and say, okay, let me do a spiral, or maybe add to the pattern of the spiral, or do another one and do some different designs. And then when I've stitched them in, you can see them go through on the other side, and this then just gives you a nice space to maybe do something else. So I've got quite a few of these that I've worked on, and I'm now using them in here as a source of ideas. Or again, ones that I started to stitch and then thought, let me practice the blanket stitch. I was practicing the blanket stitch on this, and it's interesting how it looks on the other side, so I kept that. And then where I haven't gone straight through, I've just stitched on the fabric, the top layer of fabric. I've got a nice area here that I can add a different design that you wouldn't see on this side. So this is all the first signature, and I like stitching on pieces, So that's what, again, this is. Just practicing the stitches, practicing doing different patterns and designs, and then adding it to this fabric art journal, and again having spaces that you can use. So this is the second signature, and I've again done a similar sort of thing. It's nice to be able to see the different kind of patterns that you can create using the stitch. So this one is alternate, and this one is they're just underneath each other, but you get a nice kind of, you know, nice feel for both of them. And when you think about the project that you're doing, you can create some different looks. So here we have just some fabric scraps that I have worked on and stitched them together, just using a straight stitch. But I like the colours. I've used a pink and a purple to stitch them together, and a very pale blue. And it was just a nice little exercise to add them together, bring them together. They may have been discarded otherwise, but now it looks like a really nice page, and a little bit of interest where it's hanging, and I can add some things to the bottom if I wanted to, some beading, or just to practice adding some small beads and see how they look. And here's one of the words that what I did was to add additional stitching. The word itself is stitched on a pale fabric, and then I've just taken a pale blue to add some smaller stitches, and that's the start of a page. Some of the things that you can do in your fabric art journals is paint on the page and add stencils, add stamps, and this is what I've done here. So these are stamps that I've created. They will be made available in my Etsy store. So we've got a leaf stamp here, and then just a fabric, just a pattern design. But if you take your stamps and maybe stitch around them and see what kind of effect you can get some different interesting effects. And here I've done some French knots, and here I've just been going around the shape with yellow and a kind of a limey green, and this one's yet to be stitched. And again, it's interesting to see how the back is. I could come in here with some fabric paint and do some additional work to this page, but that will be for another time. But here I've added a stencil. So I wanted to see how the stencil would look. And it's one of my favourite stencils, and it literally is just a lid from a container. But I wanted to see how, if I stitched round, how it would look. So I've just stitched around these shapes, and then when you look at the back as well, you can do something with the back if you feel like it as well. You know, I could just get rid of some of the stray threads, but again you could create something using paint if you didn't want to stitch it, or if I didn't want to stitch it. So we'll come out, see what else we've got. I think that's probably all I've done so far. So I've got a couple of pages, and I've just got, this is another piece of scrap that I was thinking, oh, let me just, you know, that can be stitched in. So it's still a work in progress, but it's got some nice things, nice projects and nice ideas that I can work on and I can explore further in other work. Like I really like the way these look, so I'm thinking that more of my words now will be like this, as opposed just to the single, just like that. So let's actually, we'll complete this, and I will find an alternate thread to go around and we'll just work on this. But I hope that you have seen something that inspires you, either with some of the smaller books to do your projects in, or creating, you know, some figures from your pieces. I had also created some of the figures from my digital downloads, which have been fun, and I'm going to be doing some more and sharing that with you. But for now, let's just finish off with this, and I'm going to go around it a dub again, and you'll see how this one looks once it's been finished. So let's get on. So I'm just going over just some of the lines. It's this, I've not started the double yet. I'm going to use a different thread, but I realised that because I'm using just one strand doubled, so it's like two strands, it's you're not necessarily going to see the green. If I use another colour, the green might disappear because it was so thin in some parts. And I wanted to use up some of this. Just going to go over to the L. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the colour I'm going to use is a mushroom colour, so I'm going to just tie it off the back. This is the colour that I'm going to use. And it's sold, it comes as 3 strands, so I'm just using one. And I'm going to double it up. I like the way it looks in terms of going around it doubly, and you know, if you wanted to go around it again, I've decided not to use it on here. I would have used a slightly different colour, but I do like this, and it can be used for another project, or it can be used inside the book on a page, and I can go around it. What I'm feeling is to go around it with this mushroom colour, just go around this bit of the fabric, and just do some stitches, carry the stitches round, and just do sort of like single stitches all the way round. And it doesn't matter that it's like, it's not on straight, but when you add the stitches, it just gives it a different look. It's not necessarily supposed to be, this has got to be exactly straight or whatever it is. It's, you're playing, experimenting, and if you want to do another one that is perfectly straight, or that doesn't have the look that that particular one has, you can do that. And then you can do multiple stitches. So I'm just going to go back on myself here. And alternate the stitches. And now I've reached the end, I can tie this off. But it does make for a nicer looking piece. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll probably continue when I've got some more time, continue adding stitches, and I'll show you what I've done with it next week. And I probably will keep it in the pocket right here so that it's one of the things that I'm working on. But think about, think about how you use your, words. Are you creating any words in your, if you're into fabric, or it can be just an ordinary, just an art journal, a paper-based art journal. But fabric has one of the things that have taken over my life. I've always collected fabric, which is it's interesting that I'd collected fabric because I wanted to make my own clothes. I have made a few of my own clothes, but my joy comes in terms of a mixed media project and knowing what I can do with the fabric that I have, knowing how I can use it and make it a part of my day-to-day, a part of my creative activity, the healing activity, which does so much for your health and well-being. So I will look forward to seeing you again next week, where we'll be looking at some other ways in which you can use your fabric to create things that will excite you and interest you. So take care for now. See you soon.